me know if anything comes up here in the chat, but also be checking from time to time. So that being said, Learnk8s, if you don't know who we are, well, you probably do know who we are if you're here, but we're a training organization, also work on a lot of different kinds of content across the Kubernetes ecosystem, been around since 2017. And across all of our networks, 450,000 Kubernetes engineers from all over the world. So this is where we're getting the information that we'll be sharing today is taken from that lovely community that we have throughout the world. So as you can see, we are three people that are going to be doing this today. Myself and Amit, if you'd like to introduce yourself for folks who don't know you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bart. I'm Amit. I work alongside Bart at Learnk8s. I primarily speak to go-to-market leaders within the Kubernetes space who are thinking about what kind of content they want to write or create or sponsor across different audiences to try and help drive more engagement with brands. So thanks, Bart. Good to be here.
Very good. And where are you based, Emmett?
I am in London. To those who are already in London, I can't say London because I'm actually just outside London, a little bit north. So here in the UK anyway.
All good. I forgot to mention that when I got started that I am normally based in Spain, but today I'm in sunny California. And I could say San Francisco, but it's not San Francisco. I'm in a city that many people have not visited yet in the Bay Area, which is called Vallejo on the other side, what we call Up Bay. You can take the ferry. It's a wonderful place to check out. That being said, we have another person who's on the other coast of the United States. Sylvain, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. My name is Sylvain. I'm the head of developer relation at Rootly and heading the Rootly AI labs. I'm very deep into the cloud native infrastructure. Used to be an SRE, and so used a lot of these tools back then. Thanks for having me today.
Including an SRE at LinkedIn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, at LinkedIn, and also was pretty deep in the data and Kubernetes community. So help a lot in making sure that we can run stateful workload on Kubernetes. And yeah, we'll speak about this today, actually.
Yep, very good. Spoiler alert, folks. There will be several mentions of data on Kubernetes. Sylvain and I had the opportunity to work together for several years. We met in 2021, and we were working together in the data on Kubernetes community. But that being said, let's get back to the slides. So what we're going to be doing this webinar, as we've done in previous months, is analyzing over 2 million impressions on Kubernetes content. If you're aware of Learnk8s, one of the things we have is our newsletter, which goes out to over 80,000 subscribers. Got all the Kubernetes news packed in there, lots of different articles about tons of different topics. So we've analyzed which topics are standing out. What's getting the most clicks? What's getting the most engagement? What are people finding the most interesting? One of the questions that I ask in all of our KubeFM episodes is how people stay up to date with all the different changes that are going on in the Kubernetes and cloud native ecosystem. As we know, as the quote says from George Orwell, to see what's in front of one's nose requires a constant struggle. And it's no exception in the Kubernetes world. So that's why we're going to be taking a look at this today. The stuff that's trending, stuff that's doing well, and thinking about why is that, all right? Now, to dig into that, like I said, 2 million impressions across our network. So in terms of topics that performed the best, as Sylvain indicated, the spoiler is correct. Data on Kubernetes content has been doing very, very well this past month, right? We also have other topics that are in there that we'll be addressing more in detail in a second in terms of configuration management, resource optimization, which was the top trend last month, right? Lots of people are trying to figure that out to get the best balance of their Kubernetes resources, networking, security, infrastructure. Sylvain, do you have any comments you'd like to make on this at a first glance?
Yeah, very briefly, data on Kubernetes for those who may not be aware, but what we mean by data is running stateful workload. So you have stateless workload where if you lose something, it doesn't matter, there is no data involved. With stateful workload, it's a little bit more touchy because you have data that's transiting through your Kubernetes infrastructure, and if you lose this workload, then you may have a lot of data. Configuration management is very central to Kubernetes. Kubernetes relies on tons of YAML file. So again, like that's something very central to the technology. And resource optimization, I think it's really in sync with what we are seeing today in the tech industry. So yeah, we'll be speaking about this later down the road.
Good. Cool. Let's keep it moving. Now, Amit, over to you.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to see the topics and the different trendings from month to month. Resource optimization, as you said, Bart, is always a very consistent trending topic, and something that people are always very interested in. Marketers, engineers, whoever it might be. But looking at the data and analyzing that data, you can see a pretty clear hierarchy developing, and you can see some opportunities developing as well. So you can see quite obviously that infrastructure seems the most popular, generating the most visits. But if we dive a bit deeper, we can really see where the opportunities are, because whilst it might be driving the most visits, there's a sheer amount of volume of different pieces of content that have been shared on the topic, hence why you're going to get more visits, because there's more pieces of content. Whereas if you go a little bit deeper into this analysis, and Bart, I'll ask you to hit the next slide. Thank you. You can see that data-related content generates actually 4.7 times more engagement per item. So you can see the demand for data-related content is higher per piece of content actually shared, which actually shows us a clear opportunity for what the audience is after, but a gap in terms of the amount of content that is actually in circulation. So it provides an opportunity for brands and marketers, go-to-market leaders who can say, okay, we want to, provide more content for this audience so that you can help reach your objectives, whatever they might be, in order to convert that audience over. So yeah, but you've already given the gist away, I think, with the next slide, but you can go on to the next one anyway.
Okay.
So you can see that current content creation efforts are significantly underserve what the audience seem to be actually interested in. So yeah, I think it'd be great to hear, Bart and Sylvain, what your opinions are on this. Is that something that you're also seeing within your own ecosystems, within your own conversations as well, or are you seeing something else? And also, do you see marketers or content contributors actually identifying this gap? Sylvain, perhaps over to you first.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think in general the topic is like largely under discussed, because Kubernetes initially was created as a technology for stateless workloads, and the technology didn't have the foundation to actually host this type of stateful workloads, and so it was simply like not possible to do in production. This has been changing through the years, but I think the industry is still catching up. I think it's a lot of, maybe it's not it's kind of a touchy, like hard to solve problem. And I do like, I can see why the community is then like really attracted when there is someone writing about it, because you absolutely want to make sure that when you run stateful workload, you do it right. Like there is no, hey, if we lose like, a little bit of data here and there, it's not, not a problem. No, it's absolutely a big problem. So I can definitely see the appeal, and definitely there is a lack of content here. But it's also a hard type of content to generate. So I think maybe that's why people are a little bit hesitant to share content unless they very feel strongly about it.
Yeah, doubling down on that, the learning curve being as steep as it is, as Sylvain said, like a lot of people may be hesitant in terms of putting themselves out there because of the technical expertise required to do so, and that it's, at the end of the day, yeah, it is challenging. We saw this in the data on Kubernetes community, is that a lot of people maybe were doing something, but they weren't 100% sure. A lot of this stuff, people had the feeling that's still being done for the first time. Although we see, as the report indicated, more and more people are talking about this. So we can get into this a little bit further. When we're talking about data on Kubernetes, these are some of the examples of the top trending articles. But in general, someone has a database, someone's thinking about storage, someone's thinking about streaming workloads with with technologies like Kafka or Red Panda. And so what are the things that they're going to have to keep in mind if they're going to be moving those workloads over to Kubernetes? Sylvain, in terms of the benefits that people see from running stateful workloads on Kubernetes, I know, cost could have been mentioned, security. What were some of the other things that we detected years ago that people found made it worth the struggle of doing it?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the industry is really trying to standardize on Kubernetes with developer experience and also the right of platform engineering, where you are really trying to have a standardized way to deploy and serve any workload. It makes a ton of sense to have your stateless and stateful workload on Kubernetes instead of having to manage, maintain, learn different platforms to do this. So I think the standardization is definitely one. I think uh, the main point of interest from companies. The other one I would say is obviously all the advantages that come with Kubernetes, which is around the flexibility and scalability of the tool, especially with today, like I think we can get a little bit about this, but with AI asynchronous workload where you have a ton of data going through and very expensive hardware, right, that you have to use to run this workload, you definitely want to only pay when you use it. And so Kubernetes is the tool of choice to do that. And then obviously, I think the last point is that overall, it pretty much any company now is using Kubernetes. So, a lot of tools are providing support for it. And so if you want to have the latest, hottest capabilities, technical capabilities, you need to be on this platform. And again, like having your stateful workload on it is just the way to go.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we heard a lot from end users was the idea to have everything in the same place. That I don't want to have some things running here, I don't want to have other things running there. Savon, you mentioned a very important word or buzzword topic, which is AI, and that's something that you're working on a lot. It's something that we hear about a lot in the ecosystem. We heard a lot about it in KubeCon. We've even got comments from people saying they want to hear more about this topic in our webinars, which is one of the reasons, one of many reasons why we invited you to be here today. But for people that are, when approaching this topic of AI workloads on Kubernetes, what's the thing that you find yourself saying most often? What's the thing that you say to give people perspective on what's really going on there?
Yeah, I think it echoes what I just mentioned. Like at the end of the day, are just another workload, um, and uh, and there is no reason for teams to be like, hey, I'm just gonna use another way to deploy this workload, right? Like they want to use the same tool that is working well for them, for their team, the standard that they adopted, where the team has knowledge and process in place. And so this is also true for AI workloads. The cloud native community has been hard at developing the tool that empowers team to scale and deploy this workload very efficiently. So there is not a like. I think the how fast this project were spun up and brought to maturity show how eager the industry is to have this workload running. And nowadays, if your company is not doing something AI related, like you might as well just be shutting your company soon, right? Like it's we're entering like a new era. So yeah, I think for the team, it's a matter of then what type of AI workloads are you running? Are you on the builder side? Are you like trying to do a very agentic, AI product and tools and workload, or are you more on the consumer side where you are plugging into existing services, product, and APIs? Either way, Kubernetes can do it all. So I think, yeah, it's just actually I feel that we don't speak enough about it. We speak about the AI side, but behind it, you need infrastructure to deploy it and scale it. And as I said, because cost is such an issue, like the GPUs are like the price of this hardware is just through the roof. And Kubernetes is just a fantastic tool to be careful with your spending here.
Very good. And as we mentioned, the last month, resource optimization and part of that being cost optimization was the top trend that we noticed across the content that we analyzed. So I think very much these two worlds of infrastructure and AI go hand in hand because of the potential that's offered, the speed, the agility. And like you said, also the ability to monitor everything and keep these costs from getting completely out of control. Organizations might love the technology, but if it comes with a heavy price tag, they might say, "Hey, our legacy systems didn't give us, this much of a punch to, from an accounting perspective." Good. Let's keep it moving. So in terms of the stuff that we, the content that also appeared alongside, we had these articles that appeared. Amit, did you want to make a comment about this?
Yeah, I think just a quick comment actually on something you just mentioned, because I think last week, last month even, we mentioned or we advised based on the data that we'd seen that actually cross-category content performed really, really well. And I think you just mentioned one there where it, with everything to do with data, but then also resource optimization, it again marks a good opportunity for marketers to be able to place their content in front of the right people and for people to really engage with it. So yeah, just comment there. And then coming on to most engaging content analysis. So these are the kind of first, second, and third pieces of content that appeared across our network. And again, something that reappears consistently month on month is especially the second option, where we say I stopped using Kubernetes. It's one of those high engagement pieces where people are providing perhaps what's the word, very honest but perhaps unexpected opinions or pieces of content that always perform well, because it's not just maybe a catchy headline, but people do want to see what other people think. You read content, you often read content that is all offering the same opinion. So actually it's very interesting to read someone else's opinion, and maybe they've come up with an alternative method that they think, oh, actually, we rather do this. So yeah, I think yes, you want to provide content, what people want to see, but you can be brave and you can share exactly how you feel rather than having to kind of go with the tide.
Good. And let's see. And as you said, as we saw last month, the content that cross categories, showing, that things aren't just happening in isolation, but will be affecting other things. I think that, that it was very clear that people responded to that positively.
Yeah.
And also we had this too, the data operations gap. Anyway, all these slides will be available for folks that want to check them out later. We'll share a link to that. And yeah, but like I said, there's so much going on that oftentimes, as we said in the beginning, this can be quite overwhelming for folks, which is why we have the monthly content analysis reports. And if you'd like to get those, you can subscribe to our mailing list for them, so you can check them out every month and see all these points more in detail. Good. So in terms of next steps of things to keep in mind, based on the stuff that we saw, it's very clear that data on Kubernetes is here to stay. As Sylvain mentioned in the beginning, in the early days with Kubernetes, there were a lot of doubts around running stateful workloads. Is it a risk? Could I lose all my data? What's the cost of that? Could my backup and restore solution or disaster recovery solution cover that? Very famously, Kelsey Hightower, wrote about this, saying that it wasn't a good idea to run stateful workloads on Kubernetes. But then I believe it was in 2021 with the LCAR operator from Oracle to help run databases on Kubernetes. He said, that the chasm had been crossed. So like I said, this is something that we keep seeing. But I think, with CNCF projects like Cloud Native PG, for folks that are interested in running Postgres workloads on Kubernetes, we saw here as well, too, in terms of the top trends, Patroni backups. Patroni, that's another operator for Kubernetes for Postgres, developed by Zalando. So like I said, these topics have been around for a while, but it's interesting to see now that they're gaining more traction. And I do think that projects like Cloud Native PG have brought a lot more attention onto it, no matter what database you might be running. Other things that we saw there in terms of the resource optimization guidance, building on the trend that we saw from last month, and the other topics here, GitOps implementation challenges. We've talked a lot about GitOps on the podcast, Flux, Argo, and everything in between. And also thinking about, where do I need to be reaching my audience? What are the best places to do so? Our ecosystem has gone through a lot of changes when it comes to the spaces that people are using. Some people are still on X. A lot of people have moved on to Blue Sky, Mastodon, and other places. LinkedIn, I think, still is, one of the consistent places. Sylvain, in your work at Rootly, as, working, on developer relations, where do you find to get the most engagement when you're interacting with developers that are interested in learning about the technologies you're working with?
Yeah, I echo that. I think X is really going downhill. And LinkedIn, I think we've seen an increase in engagement. I think X and LinkedIn were like the two kind of professional-centric social network, and I think the X going downhill has benefited LinkedIn largely. So I think focusing outreach effort on this platform is really paying off. I think there are also like if you are targeting a very technical audience, there are other platforms that may or may not be social media, but I think platforms like Hacker News and Reddit are driving a massive amount of engagement. Um, and Reddit, Hacker News is very hard to get engagement because it's either you get a lot, either you don't get at all, right? Like the goal of Hacker News is to get on the front page, and here you drive an insane amount of traffic, but it's very hard to get there. So it's kind of hard. But for Reddit, there are a lot of what we call subreddits, which are groups that are focused on a specific topic. And actually, there is a lot of very large top what we call 1% Reddit subgroup, which are the largest community on the platform that gravitate around cloud native. For instance, I posted something about the impact of AI on incident management last week. And the post in the matter of like 3 or 4 days, drove like 50,000 views on the DevOps subreddit. So I think that's very a place where I think companies should be. Keep in mind that again, your content should be neutral and informative and interesting, and just not just marketing. But I think if you come with the right conversation and you come with knowledge, I think this platform can bring a lot of brand visibility and, more importantly, engagement for the type of ICPs that you are looking at.
I very much agree. And we've seen with our content as well from CubeFM, a lot of times, in terms of spaces where people really want to dig in deeper and have debates and further conversations, Reddit very much seems to be the place where that will happen. It just seems well suited. There's anonymity, so people can also really let loose in terms of the things that they're going to say. And so you can have very lively conversations. Always remind folks to try to be as civil as possible and not intentionally try to hurt people's feelings. But I do think that there's a lot to be said for that. And I think we can all agree that X has very much gone downhill as a place where there used to be a lot more conversations going on. LinkedIn as a place to stand out and a place to be, and in terms of brand recognition, things like that. But true technical conversations, in our particular case, we've definitely seen a lot of stuff on Reddit. Emmett, anything you want to comment on that before we wrap it up?
No, I think all I can do is echo that. I think we've seen, as Barty just said, we've seen some brilliant results for some of our content across Reddit, and it drives brilliant engagement. Yes, okay, in terms of being able to determine who exactly is engaging with the content is still perhaps, the data could be more mature for those who want to analyze that data, yes. But in terms of awareness, in terms of reach, in terms of creating conversation around the brand or around certain products, then it's not a platform or a medium that you'd want to miss out on. So yeah, just echoing what you both said, really.
Fantastic. Sylvain, for people that want to have further conversations about AI incident management or just get to know you better, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can look for Rootly AI Labs. It's an initiative that we started, and it's an open source initiative where we hire people. It's kind of like a part-time thing. We hire people who are working in the tech industry or research students, and it's like a constant hackathon where we build an AI-centric project where we explore what can be done in the field of reliability with AI tools, and we share everything on GitHub, and we create blog posts and YouTube videos. So you can find me here. That's where I'm spending most of my time these days.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Sylvain. Always appreciate interacting with you and hearing from you about what's going on. As I said, AI is a topic that simply can't be ignored, but being able to talk about it in concrete terms and getting away from the hype, I think is an absolute must. We'll be back next month. Doing another webinar about our content analysis report. Thank you all very much for joining, and always open to further conversations. If you'd like to subscribe and get these reports sent to you regularly, please reach out to either Emmett or myself, and we'd be happy to get you added to the list. Thanks a lot, folks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.